for a fourth shepherd, and I almost got her convinced, and then the accident last year, and she wanted a comfort dog. And I was on a Zoom call, and I said, Brenda, get out of that pet store, please. And she goes, isn't he cute? I said, yes, and so are you, but here's the deal. So I went about the Zoom call, and she goes, well, I'm on my way, and she was holding a dog. And I put a heart next to it thinking, I didn't see the dog because I didn't have my glasses on. And she's thinking I'm giving an endorsement for this thing, and so here comes this dog. Well, anyway, so today Matt drops Packer off, and I sat down on the stairs, and I was the dog whisperer. I was like, telling the dogs, come, meet him. Come, meet him. Well, then the big test was, can I get the dog to use the restroom? Yeah. And so, Matt, you were impressed. But inside, I went to, not the dog whisperer, I went to the dog creator, and I was like, God, help me look like I know what I'm doing here. All right.
He took his first, actually, bathroom in right before I came tonight.
All right.
My yard. So
well, he's welcome here. I love the fact
I just felt like he looked like a little Packer. I was thinking that, or I also thought Lombardi for another name, but Matt, I wasn't sure.
You're going to be an amazing
after Vince Lombardi, but you're going to be amazing. I like Packer.
You're going to be an amazing dog owner, and you know what? I might have to hold him, but he said, Dad, can I bring him? I said, yes, you could bring him. So, all right, it's all good. Yeah. And maybe I could bring my Shep sometime. I know one time somebody wrote in, dogs in the house of God. Listen, they have camels and donkeys at Christmas plays, okay? So can we just, chill a little bit? All right, let's get into the pulse tonight. True. And we've got a lot of stuff to cover. And then at the end, of course, we're going to receive our evening offering, but we're going to pray for you. So I really want you to stay through till the end, because we really do want to spend some time praying for you. And then I'll just give a couple announcements at that point, like, about the New Year's Eve service and things like that. But let's get right into this pulse. How many of you noticed that there is a lot of great things, and those of you that are watching, it's amazing to me how many prophecies are coming to pass, but really how much the meltdown is happening. Mm-hmm. Have you noticed the meltdown? It is amazing. And I haven't hardly watched the news for what are we coming up to, probably 4 years. And it's just amazing how these people, they're all losing their ratings, and we're going to talk about that. They're losing their viewers. I don't think they had a lot of them anyway, but it's just amazing how there's this meltdown happening. So we're going to talk about the media tonight. We're going to talk about what God said about 2024, which don't miss our New Year's service. You can be here in person. We'll talk about that. I don't know why, and I don't know if the Lord's going to release it then, but he's been talking to me about 2029. And I learned with God, if he's talking to me, I just listen, and then sometimes I wait and I ask him questions, and then sometimes I don't, because I know that he probably won't answer it because it's not relevant to what he's talking to me about. Does that make sense? So, it's just interesting in what I'm hearing. So we are in for a great ride of a lot of things. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how the enemy try to rewrite history, media. We're going to talk about that laptop. Remember the laptop from hell? We're going to talk about the feathers. Okay, let's get into this. We're going to talk about trap set. I think we ought to, if we get time, talk about Ukraine and Russia. What God said about that, and then how about this thing with Syria? Who watched Flashpoint here, and those of you that are watching, I think they shared one of them last night about Syria. Yeah, they did, because I remember commenting. Sometimes the days run together. Okay, well, let's get into the first one, and they can go to slide 1. And guys, feel free. This isn't formal. Okay, I almost didn't wear a jacket tonight. That's how informal. But Brent said, put your jacket on. So I listened to the lady and I put the jacket on. So there you go. Just pipe in any time, because you guys all have great things to say. And even you, he's chewing a bone. Don't you love Packer? Isn't he a great guy there? All right, let's go to the first one. This one is year in review, slide 1. And we're going to kind of just read from the red part, some of you. And again, Anthony, tell them real quick that are watching and others, because sometimes people say, well, I didn't get the prophecy fully. All of this is on, where can they find these at the end?
Yep, you can find these on hankandbrenda.org. There's a section in the menu that says prophecies. All you have to do is click on that, and there's actually a search bar. We updated that, so now you can search by keyword. You can find any of these prophecies that we have here and others that we've shown in previous prophetic pulse.
Well, thanks for doing that, man. And nice hat. I won't wear it, but a nice hat. All right. So let's go to December 31st. And notice a lot of these prophecies are going to be like at the end of the year, because like the New Year's service, there's something that God seems to do to speak at that time. All right, God says, because this is a governmental year, it's not just a governmental year concerning politics, it's a governmental year concerning the court of heaven. It's my justice, my righteousness that is come into the earth in 2024. And seated with me in the court of heaven are the 24 elders of the Lamb. And they sit here this year of 24 because of the governmental shift. So God's already telling us what's going to happen in the earth. And we saw that. You think about the governmental shift of the presidency, the House, and the Senate, all of that. And there's other nations that are having shifts. It's coming to the earth, and it's going to affect nations, leaders, politics, legislation, justice, and judges. All right, let's go to the next one, and then we're going to open it for comment here in just a moment. For the 24 elders have held the prayers of a remnant people in their hands, and the eternal advocate Yeshua stood among the 24 elders, and they've gathered the prayers of you who prayed. Therefore, we've reached a verdict, that we have reached this verdict shall be entering into of the rest that I've said to you. I'll rest my case. Therefore, I will be involved in your politics. How many of you saw that? I mean, you can't make up what God did. And they said it's never been done in history. So, obviously it had the God factor. Let's go to slide 3 because it shows, and maybe you guys can weigh in, panel, on kind of these news headlines and about what God is saying with the governmental year.
Yeah, absolutely. The one that I find that's really interesting is the ultimate by Time magazine.
Certain time frame. They better honor that. Let's go to the next section. We're going to talk about God disrupting the enemy's attempt to rewrite history. So I'm just going to read a couple of these prophecies kind of quickly, and then we're going to talk about it. But look at this one from July 30th, 2023, slide 4 here. I want you to see that God was already telling us how this thing was going to end up this year. He said, therefore, I'll give the earth the sign of what I speak of at this time. For there has been, what has been shall be again in the window of grace. So God is telling us there's a window of grace being given to us. Many of us didn't see that because we were caught up in fear. And God says it's open and shall be open to bring about a restoration. And I will restore the years that have been stolen from you. So God was already telling us it isn't going to go towards liberal looniness. It isn't going to go towards socialism. Now here's the biggest clue. God says, I'll give you something easy to remember as you close out this year. As the Jewish New Year is about to arise and you enter into a new calendar year, this shall be the work of my hands. I shall restore in 2024. Some of you know, he said, that's what we should have all looked at and never doubted, not one time. Now, then he goes on and he says, I'll bring about things, and we've got to go back and rehearse prophecies. Let them breathe. Let them play out. Pray them out. He said, you're gonna have the things you've prayed about, the things that you've desired, for there's been too many lies and too much counterfeit. Therefore, he's telling us, here's the answer. I'm going to bring about a man who will stand again strong. I mean, he's talking about President Trump. So he was already telling us part of the restoration is I'm going to bring Trump back. All right, look at the prophecy continues. Now he goes into laptops. That's why, how many were here, and I want to encourage you that are watching, go out to I think it was the 9 o'clock service right around the time of worship. There was a really strong prophecy about the fire of God's justice. And God said, they can say pardon all day long, but there is no pardon. Okay, so when God, see, here's what I'm going to be doing a message. By the way, tune in on Sunday. I'm starting a series until our Christmas service, the 22nd. I'll kind of preach something else. But I'm going to start a series for a while called The Lord of the Fight. I'm going to show you many times in Scripture, God is the wrong person to pick a fight with. And they did. Okay. So let's go to the next one. Okay, look at this one from the same year and day, July 30th, 2023, slide 5. There's a shifting that's taking place in the spirit realm, and there are certain battles that you have faced in this nation. Yes, I speak even of laptops. I speak of emails. I speak of blackmailing. I speak of that which has been injustice and that which has gone through the courts. Because I'm going to show you, as I've said, you've seen enough evil. Now you'll see my goodness pass before the earth at this time. Well, what overcomes evil? Good. So part of what God's good, and I asked him about this the other day, and he said it's being fulfilled in a lot of the cabinet members that you're going to see position, the media, how they're going to shift. There's going to be some networks that aren't even going to attack Trump like they did before because they know it didn't work. They're going to have to report the truth. So we'll get into that section. But now go to the next one. This is August 30th. This is 2023. It's slide 6, and I want you to pay attention, and I'm going to open up for discussion, but it just kind of gets us an opportunity to hear the prophecies and then discuss it. Listen what God said. This was, let's see, August of 2023, we're in December. That would be almost 14 months, 15 months. So this was 15 months ago. God was telling us how this was going to turn out. And sometimes we don't pay attention. And I'm guilty of that too. Watch this. I have promised that this nation would not belong to those who desire socialism, Marxism, fascism. I will give it to the remnant who are crying out day and night. There shall be an interruption and a disruption. All right, stop right there. What was some of the interruptions and disruptions we saw? Assassination attempt. We saw this fake Biden get removed and a cackling, I don't know what that thing was, that rose up, right?
We saw indictments.
Indictments, yeah. Go ahead and shoot.
We saw indictments.
Indictments, yeah. So to try to interrupt and disrupt, right? All this fake that they were trying to pull on people, mug shots, raiding of Mar-a-Lago and so on. God says, you're going to see these things. And they think they're going to be able to bring through that process. But watch what I do to interrupt. Again, don't pick a fight with God, says the living God. Watch what I do to shake it. And they'll even say, we've not experienced this like this before. How many know they're saying that? And God says, you have tried to rewrite history on a nation that was covenanted to me. Wow. Now I'll take my finger, as I did in the days of Pharaoh, and cause my finger to come. And the power of the witches and the powers of the magicians could not reign over my will and my agenda. He's already telling us, my finger has come to rewrite my history upon this nation, says this time. I'm going to read this prophecy and we're going to discuss. I've told you that you've entered into a season that I'll remove kings, I'll remove leaders. My finger and the sword, my sword shall cut down, and then they will look and they'll say, but who is standing? Who is standing? In this month of September, October, November, who is standing as I wage the new level of warfare from my throne against the enemy who desires war? How many times did they talk about World War III? Yeah. And God's telling us, it's my battle. Who is standing? And God says, who's standing? Who can lead us in this nation? Look to 45, who has been through the fire that has been turned up 7 times hotter. Now he's telling us how the indictments were going to turn out. That's why I kept doing this on Flashpoint for a year. Dropping the feathers, because that's what God said. We'll look at that prophecy. God said, yet he shall walk out without the smell of smoke, says the living God. This is my justice. All right, let's look at the headlines and then let's talk about all of this. So jump in, let's go for it.
Going back to what was that, slide 6, about how it talked about, and the powers of the witches and the powers of the magicians could not...
Honoring those who did not put their integrity into question.
Well, I'm looking at you right here. You guys were amazing.
Yes.
And you that are on
those that stayed the course.
Screen. And that's what the Lord showed me. I think I shared with you. I had a dream back, and I have to go back and look at it, but I know it was around the first of this year, or is it when I was out at Cheyenne's, where I saw Biden get removed. How remember me sharing that? And I was on the world stage, and a guy leaned over to me, and he was a big guy in a suit. Now I know he was an angel. And he said, come. He said, the king wants to meet with you. And I said the stupidest thing in my dream, and the fire of God shot out of that angel's eyes in the dream, like, you are stupid. I don't think he thought that, but like, I could tell he wasn't happy with me. And he said, who do you think I'm talking about? And I said, you mean Jesus? And he said, who do you think I'm talking about? He said, come. He wants to reward you and others for their stand. And so that's what we're going to see. But I want you to look at slide, slide 9. This is interesting because God said they're going to try to rewrite history. Look what they're doing regarding the stupid thing. Federal judge criticizes Hunter Biden's presidential pardon as unconstitutional rewrite. Just the angle. I didn't know what that word was. And then I don't know what the other one. Judges scolds President Biden for trying to rewrite history. So you're seeing these things play out. They're trying to rewrite history, and God says you're not going to do it. So don't ever think just because you hear something on the news that is in fact fact. So let's go to slide 11. I want to talk a little bit about the enemy's attempt to rewrite history. And I want you to look here for a moment and see if you get a clue. I'm going to read this prophecy on slide 10, slide 10. And I want you that are watching, see, as you look at this on your screen, see if you see a clue on something that God was given to us. I didn't see it until I re-looked at the Paul's before I came one more time, and I thought, I never saw that. Okay, see if you see it. Okay, here we go. And there will be a standard of morality that you'll begin to see that will come through the courts, the judicial system of this country. And this standard will touch your Congress, your House, as I seek to shake them. But I need you to fast because they're counting on holding the house of cards. Let it be shaken, for this kind shall be greatly affected by fasting and by prayer, that I'll raise up a standard. And yes, they mock you. They try to say that your forefathers did not pray or read the holy word, and they were just deists. God says they do not understand the history that they seek to rewrite. But yet they have forgotten that I'm part of the history of your past, and I shall be of your present and your future. All right, so stop right there. What was a clue in there that God was telling us how something was going to play out? Help, because they're counting on holding the house of cards. God was telling us that there was already manipulation and liberal loony plans to try to hold on to the house. Interesting that it came down to that was the last thing to be decided. How many see it? Yeah. And sometimes, again, we got to look at things and let God speak to us and reveal things. All right, look at the next prophecy. This is slide 11. And there shall be a standard, same day, August 4th, 2024, and it will be raised up in your Supreme Court. Now he's given us a clue what's going to happen. There will be yet another shaking that shall come to your court. It shall remove two, and then a third one, meaning three, not another three, but a second one and a third one is what he's talking about. Are you ready for some removals? Yeah. And he's telling us why. And this will be a supreme thing because of the ties and the things that have been connected to that have not been the standard that I say in my time of justice. I'll raise up a standard that will greatly affect the political of the executive branch. And this branch is not just reaching out to you with the standard, America, but it shall set a standard throughout the earth. For a short season, it will bring a strange peace, so it'll be calm in the earth. Now notice he's talking about how he's going to use the executive branch. He's talking about President Trump, who is going to somehow bring this standard to the rest of the nations. What are you seeing right now these nations do with President Trump? Yeah. They're rolling out the red carpet. They're acting like we never mocked you, talked bad about you, said anything. Okay, right. Like Matt said, they're scared. I don't know, what was the word you said? They better not mess with them kind of attitude. And God said it's going to bring something. And here, this is where we got to be careful. Now, I just want to encourage you that are watching. I get so tired of something that I have to go and have God talk to me about. And he talks to me about how much he hates fear-mongering. And he hates fear. God is a faith God. He hates it. He hates it when preachers get on and they use manipulation and fear to get you to give. Or you don't hear anything from them about anything, and then all of a sudden they bring out their end-time eschatology scriptures, right? Yeah. All right, gas prices go up, and now they get you convinced that you're supposed to buy a year's worth of supply of, you just add a little water to these things. We don't even know what they are, but they're supposed to taste like eggs and waffles, and it's just sponges. And God he gets tired of it. I remember Y2K, I was on the radio back then. Rachel, you remember, I got nailed by people in Omaha. Thank God it wasn't. And I had an angel appear on your birthday, and I went public about it. He stood before me. He said, I've been sent from the Father to have you. I'm like, me? Get somebody else. I'm not going to say what you're saying. I mean, that's what I thought afterwards. I was scared when he came to me. And he said, I've been sent by the Father here for you to decree and tell the people that Y2K will not be as they say, and that the spirit of fear is trying to cross the new millennial line ahead of the Lord's church. And he said, and as a result, it'll strike your schools and your nation. You remember that? And I went out in this, how many were here the night that I went out in the Spirit and I was standing in Columbine, Colorado? I didn't even know where Columbine, Colorado was. I came out of the vision, told the church, said, I'm sorry, I know I'm weird, but I just saw something happen in a place called Columbine. We need to pray for the schools. Well, here's the thing. People wrote in, and I even had a pastor, I'll leave that out, but who it was. But there's a pastor in the city said, well, what is your church going to do when all your lights go off and you don't have any food? Who are you going to go to? I thought, wow, that's really Christ-like, isn't it? And I told myself, I'm going to come to your place, but it isn't going to happen. He goes, well, what are you doing on New Year's? I said, we're holding a prayer meeting. I'm going to hop on a plane. I'm going to go to watch Nebraska in a bowl game. And I got on the plane, and there was nobody on it but me and the guy I went with, and the scared flight attendants, and the pilots were scared. And I said, we had a football. I said, you guys mind if this is kind of a boring flight. Do you mind if I throw a football? They let me throw it across the plane. I had the guy go down. I was throwing like bombs down. I shouldn't say bombs on a plane. No, I was throwing, sorry, no, take that off. I was throwing long passes down the aisles, man. Oh, stop. I am so embarrassed.
They need to put a disclaimer at the bottom of the screen.
In this politically correct world.
Oh, my gosh. What did I say? I am really turning red. I'm sorry, guys. I'm really sorry. Can we defer to you guys? Bail me out. Go to slide 11A. Read that one. Okay, I'm so sorry. I threw long passes for all those that are in the Federal Aviation Administration Department.
You're throwing dots. There you go. That's
Whatever it was.
Throwing
All right.
dots.
Yeah. And I had all the pop I wanted and everything, man. The flight attendant, she was so scared, handed me. I was like, I could take another round of those pretzels. All right, let's go. But fear, my whole point of that stupidness is fear. It gets us, and God doesn't like it. That's my point. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead, read that one,
Okay,
please.
this is slide 11A.
Let's move on.
Okay, slide 11A. This is from August 4th, 2024. This section is an interesting one because now God is addressing a particular group that has really kind of been placed at the forefront, and in my opinion, they've been exploited. So I'm going to read this real quick. It says, "My word will be spoken and even read in your schoolhouses. You will not see only the 10 commandments in public squares, but in the place of your schools. You will begin to see as they have shoved and they have pushed against my defining of gender. Yet God says, watch how it shall backfire. Watch how I restore. As there will come a great movement among the transgenders that they will say, we do not believe. No longer do we believe this. Watch what I do to defend traditional marriage on a governmental level, says the Spirit of God." Can you see the future?
Wow.
This prophecy is already coming to pass
It is? Okay, talk
in
about
some aspects, because we just talked about this on Game Changers. Pastor Matt, you'll know what I'm talking about. We just actually shared a couple of headlines coming up in one of our episodes about how there has been a 22% increase in Bible sales compared to this time last year. And guess who's leading the movement? Gen Z. Gen Z and millennials. And it said because Gen Z is looking to find something to combat anxiety, but they're also looking for something that has substance. Yeah. I can't remember what the exact word was, but they were looking for something that has like a foundation. And there was an influencer that went as far to say that by purchasing the Bible, she felt like this was the beginning of her walk with God. Yeah. You're already seeing this happen.
Wow.
Pastor Hank, can I undergird that real
just
quick?
say it.
So it's cool that you mentioned that, because I remember having that conversation with you, and we had talked about that, where all that does is really just show the desire that people are having now for change. Yeah. And what have we been saying? Change is in the air. Yeah. And, I think of it as, people have tried 1,000 different lives, and now they're realizing that the only life that matters is when you lay it down and give it to the Lord. Yeah. They've tried, this over there, that over here. I've tried a life in, this. I've tried a life in business, or whatever it is that they're doing, and they just realize that everything leads to the same square one until you lay your life down and lay everything at the foot of the cross. And I think that is where, people tell you read all these books all the time and everything, but then notice that it's the Bible that is having all these sales and increases. And so I think people are starting to understand that they've been lied to these last 4+ honestly, decades now. This goes back even to 2001 and 9/11. With how much we have been lied to as American citizens.
Well, we're going to talk about the media after this. So let's go to slide 12. Terry, is there any comments on this that you want to make?
The last thing I was going to say really quick is that just we're seeing some of this in the schoolhouses as well. I just wanted to point out, so like Texas, they just passed where they're going to allow Bible-based curriculum in a lot of their schools.
Put the prophecy back up, because didn't President Trump say that this is what's on his agenda too?
Yes.
Prayer in the school. Could put that back up where God talked about this. When was that prophecy again?
The August 4th, slide 11A.
Okay, yeah, please. And then put up, there you go.
Yeah, right there at the beginning where it talks about my word will be spoken and even read in your schoolhouses. And so we're seeing this in Texas. Oklahoma also passed where they're allowing Bible-based curriculum to be taught in some of their public schools. And then as far as this transgender issue, I wanted to bring up too, right now in front of the United States Supreme Court, there is a case being heard. Well, they heard the arguments already, and so right now they're deliberating. But it's United States versus Skermetti, and essentially what this is the Supreme Court justices will be deciding whether or not to allow. Tennessee right now has a ban on gender mutilation surgeries for minors. And so right now the Supreme Court justices are deliberating on whether or not to uphold that ban. So that's something we can definitely be praying about, but we're seeing this already start to take action here in the United States.
And on slide 12, there it is. It talks about some of the things that are happening. That's amazing. And even the one with prayer back in school, we talked about this last pulse, which you guys can go out to OVTV and see it if you haven't seen it, where there's prophecies from like 2004 where God said this was going to begin to happen. So that's really neat. All right, let's talk about the media. What is going to happen to media? So let me just read a few of the prophecies, and then we'll comment about it to kind of keep things moving. Look at what God's been saying about the media. All right, so let's go to slide 13. We'll start there, and we'll just kind of go, those that are doing a great job back in the booth. Let's give them a hand clap. Aren't they great? And so this is November 29th, what God says about, listen to this. Just as the days came when the Egyptians were no more. Listen to me, CNN, MSNBC, MSN, Fox. If you do not change and report the truth, you as the Egyptians will be no more. How many have already seen the decline? And a new media shall arise in the land of the United States. Guess what came out of one of the new medias? Truth Social.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, Frank's speech with Mike Lindell.
Yep.
Others. Look at what happened with Tucker. I mean, he started his own podcast and has more people watching that than he did when he was on the fake news. Yes. And it shall arise in the land of the United States. All right, let's go to slide 14. This one's an interesting, we talked about Tucker. This is before Tucker did what he did. Listen to what God said. There will be a turning of events. Pay attention as things will swiftly turn. You say, what shall begin to turn? God says the news. They'll begin to turn as some shall have a dismantling. And what would seem like internal confusion and conflict, which is happening, there will be a turning upon one another in the news media and in the places that they've been perpetrating lies. For God says there is the spirit of truth, that is conviction, that is riding and moving upon the earth. And there are some that shall stand up at the expense of their job, Tucker and others, their reputation, and they'll say, we can no longer, no matter how much we're paid, and we are told to continue to report, to say, and to act like this. God says it'll turn, it'll shift as they begin to come, and they'll begin to turn their finger and say, we will not say that anymore. Wow. So, that's good news. All right, look at this one from 2021. So, I'll take my time, even as the new year comes among you, to do what I've planned, to bring my long fall, for many shall be exposed. So how many know God kept talking about the long fall? And we kept looking to the fall, thinking that it had to be that fall. And God kept saying, you're looking at your seasons. It's my season, and I'm not held to your fall, winter, spring. This is my fall. He says things will begin to fall, and they're going to fall apart. Watch very closely. There'll be shocking turn of events, and they'll fall apart. And watch very closely. I'll turn shockingly as the shaking comes to the networks. And there will be removals, and there'll be new faces that will arise upon the networks. And they'll say, we don't care how much you pay us, we will not lie. Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
All right, look at this one, slide 16. This is tough. I like this one. Okay, he's talking about social media. Okay, and this you will see as things will continue to unravel, as there will be more and more exposures that will come through a shaking of your media. There'll even come a shaking of your social media. What was that? Twitter was like, now it's X. Mm-hmm. Well, look at what happened to Zuckerbuck, like Michael and Dell says, and Facebook and all that. Oh, Facebook. Sorry. I know that you're hosting us. So God says, I'll show you what they've covered, which he came out and had to testify and admit it.
Yep.
So God already said this was going to happen. And I'll show you the lies that they were paid for, which came out to propagate and to bring forth so that you would believe the lies and that you've had to swallow. Okay? Let's go on. We're going to read two more, and then we're going to talk about the headlines and comments here. Slide 17 and 18, real quick. This is August 4th, 2024, this year. You've looked to the media. They've lied to you. I will shake them. And those in their pride who thought they could make a mockery out of me and my people, I shall not be mocked. For you will say from your mouth, where is this network? Where have you gone? How many of you noticed the ratings? That's almost happening. I was like, where are they? Okay. What has become of them? And God says, because I've raised a standard, and there will be a standard that shall come in your media that will shock you. And a great change will come even upon the movie screens. Okay, let's keep going. The prophecy continues. A standard shall be raised where they'll say, this is what we will do. As Hollywood will be shaken, because something else will come. And I say it's even greater. And they will represent a standard that will be seen in the area of entertainment. All right, let's go to slide 19. Why don't you guys take us through some of these slides here, slide 19. On page 16, you guys can comment on some of these headline news and stuff.
I just think the overall shift of the media is really interesting. They kind of accelerated their own death because there was already cord cutting happening. Yeah. I mean, when's the last time, Matt and Terry, you've actually watched cable TV? Okay, probably.
Got rid of that a long time ago.
Yeah.
I stream.
Yeah. So we stream. We stream now, and what we've seen too, especially in the podcast space and YouTube, I mean, you can just pop on a camera and then garner hundreds of thousands of views. Oh, yeah. And, it's just interesting to see the shift that took place. But in the midst of that, all of the exposure that's happening, and if you look at the headlines here, looking at slide 19, CNN at the bottom, Donald Trump potentially opening up the White House press room to Joe Rogan, an independent journalist.
Awesome.
People are losing their minds.
Wow, you know why? Because they're finally going to get truth. Right. Yeah. They're not going to spin it anymore.
Bye-bye, Washington Times.
That's the other thing, too. Like, Joe Rogan legit tried and, wanted to get Kamala on a show, and legitimately, he was having a hard time doing that.
Like, you can't put a teleprompter on a podcast.
That's what. Yeah, right. Yeah, so a teleprompter on a podcast. But I mean,
we couldn't work our schedule.
Yeah, and I just think it's cool. By the way, and I'm just gonna say it. Merry Christmas too for everybody in here and watching online.
Merry Christmas to Packer.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. I mean, we were just so told not to say Merry Christmas. And I think the thing too.
Do you remember when Cacklin said that? How dare they tell us to say Merry Christmas?
That's what I'm saying. I mean,
say it more so that it torments her and the devils that are out there.
Yeah.
Wait, where is she anyway? She went on vacation in Hawaii and disappeared. I guess that's what happens when you spend $1.5 billion and don't win.
The movie, when you throw water on something that's evil, it
melts.
It melts.
Yeah. But see, the thing is, they all know too.
Stop.
All these places, I mean, you just mentioned it too with the whole streaming thing. I mean, a lot of places really you're just not seeing a lot of cable television stuff anymore. I mean, really, if there's anything with cable television, it might be people will watch sports or something like that. But the Weather Channel, yeah. But it's everybody's streaming nowadays, and you're just seeing that. Podcasts are huge right now, and I think this is really going back now. You're going to start seeing the shakeup in the media like you've been prophesying, and I think we're going to see a lot of different changes now through podcasting and streaming. I think apps is a huge thing right
even
now,
our ministry,
too,
you'll be seeing we're making changes regarding broadcast TV.
Yes, I'm telling you, it's all coming to, change now. And I think it's positive change. It's change that's needed. So,
all right, well, hey, I want to show the one about Hollywood real quick, too. Slide 21. Notice this, the voice of media shifting to truth. A family film studio brings a new vision to Hollywood. Game changer, conservative movies crash box office charts. That's really, really amazing. All right, let's go to the next one because I really want to get into Hunter and the laptop stuff for the second half of the show or whatever, right? So let's talk about, I want to look at slide 23. I think God, once again, this was December 6th of 2020, was giving us a clue of what we were entering into for really what's been 4 years. And again, I don't think we look at it and see it because either we're listening to the news or we have our own expectation on how something is supposed to be. Or we're upset because something is happening and we don't always get God's perspective. And that's where I, as a vessel, and you too, we have to be careful, especially those of us who maybe God uses to speak certain words. You can't put your interpretation on it. I remember the hardest thing I used to do, and then they did, I remember 2005 and 6, I was in Chicago, Illinois. 5,000 leaders were there. And I said, listen to me, Chicago, you say you want a black-skinned president. This is in 2005, I believe it was, because we shared that, okay? Is this what you want? Do you want Ishmael? Do you want one who his heart has been darkened in policies that will be dark? And yet the place stood up and applauded.
Yep.
Yeah. And then they sent me the thing, we're going to send this prophecy to him. And they left off all the other part. Just that a black-skinned president. And I said, you can't do that, and don't put my name on it. That's not what God said. But see, if you get your mind in something or your own desire about something, it can taint your ability to discern the word of God or the word of the Lord. So it's just lessons that I'm learning, and we all have to learn. But look at this one from December 6th. And the hands that are riddled with guilt shall be cuffed. And as I did, and I've declared with the enemy, and I say to those who think they can steal my nation from me and from my people and from those who love this nation. So God's already telling us, you're getting ready to enter into something here. For I've said over the enemy, there shall be a time of great exposure. So he said, you're coming into that time of great exposure. This is why the last 4 years had to play out. And men will say, is this the worm? Is this the one that deceived the nations? And I'll do this to bring satisfaction to those who demand justice. We had a little bit of a discussion, a little bit of a different viewpoint on Flashpoint last night. I don't know if you caught that about, when President Trump gets to power. And I felt the indignation of the Lord in my own spirit that I had to speak up and say, well, no, wait a minute. This isn't about, look, we're not trying to be vengeful. That's not it. There's a difference between being vengeful and justice. Right. And there's certain things that when you touch it at a certain level that has been done, it demands justice. Right. Not looking away. That's right. Yeah. Not sweeping under the rug. And then here's the other thing. If we don't have strong leaders at this time, went through. Come on, think about the forced mandates, the high gas prices, groceries still. Come on, the harsh season that we went through, right? We need people to get in there and say, you're going to be held accountable for what you tried to do. Yeah. And if they don't, they'll try to do it again.
That's right.
So this is where we have to understand that this kind of exposure is coming. Let's talk about this one real quick. Slide 24. God said this, look to this corner, and the bottom corners. And he had me do this when I prophesied this. I don't know if you can see that, those of you that are watching. Where do you see a frame? And in each corner, there has been Russia, China, Ukraine, and Iran. And you framed a picture to try to steal, kill, and destroy concerning the United States. And you have cooperated and shaken hands with those in the middle of this picture frame who have been about laundering, trafficking, and an agenda to turn this nation into socialism and communism. God was telling us ahead of time. But listen to me carefully. What you do not realize is while you framed your agenda, you didn't get the picture. I've watched I've waited, and now I laugh, says the Spirit of God, because of the great light that now shall shine in the month of January. Now, again, was it that January? Or what's about to happen in the first 100 days starting in this January?
Wow.
Of great exposure. See, we got nailed on something when God prophesied there would be a December to remember, and they would say Merry Christmas again in the land. And then there would be a January of justice that would come, and a February that would lead to February of fury, that the enemy would be, and people are like, oh, it's a false prophet and a false prophecy. And every year that was like 4 years ago, people were hammering that word, and I just had to put it out of my head because I knew that God didn't say which one it would be. And I've learned long enough when I've listened to God that what you think he's talking about a certain year and a time frame, it isn't. And also I learned this from Kim Clement. Sometimes things have a double meaning. It will be that time, but then it'll repeat itself and it'll play out. So we have to be careful. And I think all of us are learning those kind of lessons. I feel like I'm doing a lot of talking. So let's...
That's good.
That's really good, though.
Okay, so where else do we want to go about the frame? Do you want to talk about that? Because I want to get in the laptops. I want to talk about Syria. I want to move a little quicker here. So do you have anything on the frame one right there? Anyone?
No, the only thing I want to point out that's really interesting about, and I'm kind of jumping ahead to Syria, but if you include them in there, if you look at Iran, their president got taken out. Mm-hmm. If you look at Syria, their president got removed. And now God is also dealing, and interestingly enough, the former president of Syria fled to Russia, so there's something going on there that we need to pay attention to. But at the end of the day, it's just like you said, Pastor Hank, as you let these things play out, as you let them unfold, we have to continue to pray these things into existence. It's not a matter of this just being an unconditional thing and saying, oh, we heard a great word, let's just keep moving with our lives. No, God is depending on our prayers because our prayers, as we just found out earlier, is a part of the testimony that God uses to release his verdict of his redemptive plan. So it's just something to keep reminding as you see some of these dominoes begin to fall internationally.
Yes, yes, that's
Okay.
good.
So what I'm going to do now is I just want to read very quickly 3 prophecies. And the reason why I want to share these is because something happened to me that I've said many times. March 15th of, it was March 15th of 2020. We had a guest speaker that day, and I went down, and I'll never forget, it was 2:30 in the morning, and I was stirred. I felt like the Lord said, go downstairs, and so I went downstairs and I was praying, and nothing seemed to happen. In fact, it felt like my prayers were going up to the ceiling and they were bouncing back. Have you ever had that happen to you? And I just felt like, you know what, Hank, just stay in there. God must be wanting to do something even though it doesn't seem like it. And so I just kept praying, and all of a sudden I felt something happen to me. And again, I'm not trying to compare myself to Ezekiel. I'm just trying to give you a biblical example of something that happened to Ezekiel that for whatever reason it happened to me on March 15th, 2:30 in the morning, 2020. I felt something like grab my hair, and Ezekiel talked about how something pulled him up. Well, that's what happened to me, and I got pulled up. And I was taken over the earth. How many of you heard me say this? And I looked down on the earth, and it was really dark. And it was kind of scary because I was like, man, the earth is really, really dark. And then I could see, I don't know how or why I could see it, but I could see the earth. But I could see now that I was looking at the United States through the midst of darkness. And maybe that was prophetic too, is that even though it would be dark, God would give us the ability to see through the darkness. Maybe that's what God was trying to do. And I was looking, and I was like, man, it is so dark over this country. And I remember I was feeling fear all around me, and I felt somebody on the side of me, and I don't know if it was the Lord. He hasn't told me, but I heard the most authoritative voice I think I've heard in my life. And it shouted and said, divine resets, divine reversals. How many of you remember that? And the voice was so authoritative that it hit the earth, this light, and it began to shatter the darkness. And it didn't happen right away. And then the Spirit of God spoke to me, and He told me, which I delivered a word to the administration at the time. And God said, I am mad, and I'm going to stand up for the kids.
Amen.
Amen.
All right, look at the prophecy. I like this one. Watch who, what, where, when, and how that they have touched the children. So he's telling you, okay, look at what happened to The one guy, Diddy Doody or whatever his name is. Okay, I don't know if he did. I don't know. I don't follow those people. But, you know, and then others are coming out. For you're entering into a season, not only of change of seasons, but entering into a season of great change, and it's going to happen in your politics. How many saw that? Yeah. Look at this one. So God talks May 4th, 2021, slide 27. There's going to be a derailment. And all of a sudden, right after that prophecy, weeks later, all these train derailments start happening. And how many remember that? And he said, this is going to be a sign. Even insects shall come. Remember and I don't want to pronounce the food one. Which one is it again?
Oh, the cicadas?
Casadas or whatever. You remember those?
Yes.
Okay, those came up. And yeah, last time I called it something that you get at a taco restaurant and nobody eats it. Did I really call it that?
You called it quesadilla.
Okay, well, just erase that from the tape. But
hey, I had one recently in your honor.
Sorry that you eat bugs. All right. For I'll move my hand swiftly, and I'll bring a great return. How many of you know he's talking in 2021, a great return's coming? And upon this nation, upon the nations of the earth, and men shall say, see, again, the ministry got attacked. Oh, you're saying Trump's going to return now. He didn't. Oh, wait a minute. Listen to what God says. And they're even going to say, upon the nations of the earth, we didn't think this would happen. Words down, and a unity will arise. All right, let's go to the juicy stuff. Let's get to, how many ever heard of lions and tigers and bears? Oh, my. Well, we're going to talk about pardons, hunter, laptops. Oh, my. All right, you ready? I'll let you guys. All right, Matt, read slide 32. Right, slide 32, page 26. That way, I'm doing all the talking here. So, okay, watch this one. Slide 32, page 26.
Okay.
How's your pup doing?
He fell asleep. I got him.
Okay.
Therefore watch, look at my thumb, says the Lord. A thumb drive, as little bit as it is, shall be placed into the hands of righteousness and justice, and will be what I shall use. One such source to show that things do exist and have existed, and they underestimated their efforts to cover up. They did not know that my thumb is on the thumb drive. And God says, not only am I driving my thumb, but I'm going to drive that thumb, drive right in their face, and I will expose, says the Spirit of God.
How many know there's been reports of a thumb drive? How many heard about this? And the person, I guess, was in hiding or something? How many heard about that? So again, I don't know, but I've been hearing reports of it on the news. How many of you heard it? Something like that? Maybe in the comments you could. Okay, so that's interesting. All right, let's go to the next one. Terry, why don't you read slide 33?
Okay, but it says, but watch very closely, for the media that you see today shall not be what you will see in the time that is coming of rest. The networks there will be some sold, some will fold, others will be rebranded, and new voices shall arise. Social media, they will be brought out, exposed, as you see with Twitter. It shall begin to come like a fury, and it will flood down on other social media outlets. And I will reveal, as I rest my case, how they too were part of the injustice and the corruption. And then it will not go away. I told you my finger is driving a thumb drive that's connected to a laptop. And God says, I will open it up even greater for the world to see.
Amen.
Wow.
Amen.
All right. Can you do 34, and then we're going to talk about it here?
Yes, February 12th, 2023. It says, I have not come to kill, steal, or destroy. I have come to shake, and I will shake the wicked so violently that even the laptop will not be closed. It will be open for the world to see. You call yourself hunter. You have been hunted. You are no more. Now I hunt. I hunt to shake and to establish righteousness, and oh yes, justice. You'll see it. You will see my justice, says the Lord.
All right, I want to continue on slide 35. Listen to this one. God says there's been a raid on a place of Mar-a-Lago, and you saw with your own eyes, and they lied. They created a narrative because they're afraid. And they say, we must frame, we must lie. But you've left me out of the picture. Therefore, there shall come a leak, and there'll be a video. And this is not just a video, it's video, says the living God, of those in high places. They thought they were destroyed, but they're not. Emails that were washed and bleached, but they're not. There are thumb drives that shall create so much damage, but establish truth that the earth will see as things are leaked. Who do you believe? What do you believe? Will you look at this and say to the report, oh, this is AI or Photoshopped? Or will you believe that my justice roars, exposing all things? Okay, anything you guys want to talk about that?
Yeah, I just had a thought because you said, God said, I will give them war. Well, what's one of the tactics that you use to cut off the enemy from, maneuvering or coming together? You cut off their system of communication. Yeah. All these networks are coming down because there is a cutting off of the enemy's communication. And so now, as a result, because the communication system is being cut off, exposure is coming to pass.
That's good.
Terry, Matt, anything you guys want to say real quick? And then we're going to...
No, that was
Okay.
good.
I want to read this one. So this is an interesting... So now we're going to talk about... This is really interesting. We're going to talk about the spider. How many remember the strange spider that showed up this summer? And it had like 8 legs. Well, I think they have 8 legs anyway, right?
Yes.
So, or maybe, what was it? It wasn't 8 legs. What was it like? It was like really long. I mean, it was ugly. Maybe those of you that are watching, remember the ugly spider? What was the name of that thing? Do you remember?
I found a headline. It was the Joro spiders, and they said they were coming to the East Coast, and they're known for parachuting through the air. Wow.
Okay. Wow. Parachuting through the air, huh? That sounds really... That sounds planned. It sounds like... Never mind. I could say something I'm not. I already said something on an airplane that got mistaken. All right, look at slide 37. So look at what God says about a spider. Now, this is 2017. And how many know that the CIA, FBI, different ones have been in the news, Secret Service. Well, God talked about this in 2017. Okay, are you enjoying this, or do you want me to stop?
Yeah, this is
okay.
good.
Okay, watch this one. This is interesting. Slide 37. Okay. For their plotting, says the Spirit of God, and the head has formed its web. It uses the web and has planned to use the web by way of cyber. For this one, who is known as the spider, God's given us a clue. There's somebody who this is their name, their tag. You say spider, and you'll inflict fear upon this nation. You've looked, for there's a spirit that has been released, the spirit of hell, and you call yourself Anarchia. What has been created over this country? You had the BLM riots and all of that stuff. Come on, to create Anarchia. And you've said you'll create great turmoil against this administration, this president. That was Trump. And you, spirit of anarchy, so now it's demons working with men. You say, we will just create enough where people will believe it. Oh, how about the dress that supposedly was used in a rape that wasn't even made until 2 years later? Yeah, Jean Farrell, was that her name? Oh, Jean Carroll. Sorry if I named the wrong person. I'm so sorry. But yeah, that whole thing and all these indictments, and God saying they're going to do it, where people will not trust the government and rise up against it. This shall fail. For there's a movement that heaven has looked to, and is the month of a heavenly assault. Now watch. Look at this one. So the prophecy continues. This shaking shall release the vulnerability, the lies that have come from the CIA, the FBI, and there shall even be a shaking among what some shall call the way of Secret Service. How many have seen the Secret Service getting shaken?
Yes.
And it shall be a shaking in the media, and there are those who are being paid by secret organizations to create false news, and they're being paid in secret with no source to back them, for the Lord God of hosts is about to touch you. This corruption has not just touched the CIA, the FBI, Secret Service, but it's touched your media. And this corruption has even touched your Supreme Court. And in secret they legislated, they did not legislate according to the bench, they legislated according to a secret, to a gathering of those who speak into the ears of some who call themselves justices. Wow. Now, go to this next one. This is June 9th, and we're going to talk about this real quick. What is this? This is June 9th, 2024. Look, there's a spider, and it shall have great width to its web. And you'll say, what is this large spider that's appearing in America with legs spread apart and a web so big? This happened in the news months later. I speak this in the natural, so now God's saying you're going to see it in the natural because it's to point to something. Because when you see this revealed, it's a sign of one whom they call spider. Great is the reach of his web. Great is the ensnarement of the web and the anarchy that has been created and perpetrated by one they say spider, and they've conspired. They've worked together to seek to ensnare 45 and you, the people of this nation, to entangle you in the web of their lies, their deceptions, their narratives. But when the spider arises in the natural in this nation, it will be a sign that all of this shall be cut and brought down and brought to a place now that the verdict of heaven, remember how we started this? God's verdict shall now be seen through justice in your land.
Wow.
Let's go to slide 40. Slide 40. Look at that. Anthony, everybody, why don't you guys go ahead and comment on this one?
Yeah, so this is really interesting. We were looking through some of the headlines because initially we were looking at prophecies about exposure to the FBI and CIA and Secret Service, and then we forgot about the part about the spider. And we started digging into some of the headlines. We found that there is this global cybercrime network group called the Spider. And they're responsible for, I think they hacked into and shut down basically the casinos in Vegas,
Yep.
MGM resorts. They've hacked into several large banks, financial institutions, and then also they've recently hit some of your healthcare systems, disrupting things, stealing. They also stole like millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Well, anyways, I think this is November 20th. Yeah, 2024. It says U.S. charges 5 men in scattered spider hacking operations. Feds charge 5 hackers linked to scattered spider cybercrime group. It says that the scattered spider hackers were leveraging, going back to the AI part, AI, social engineering to infiltrate healthcare and other sectors.
Wow.
So this is a sign that what God said is coming to pass. Now you're starting to see the justice come to pass.
Yeah. Well, and I think one thing that was interesting too about that spider network was that they were talking about how it was so unusual that it spanned so many different countries and they were working together and they had such a large web of hackers that were working together to take down some of these large companies. And so again, just pointing to what we are seeing in that prophecy coming to pass.
Amen. Anything you want to say about spiders? I just know that I don't eat that calamari stuff. I told Brenda it looks like a dried up spider when they serve it on your plate. You ever seen that? Just thought I'd mention that.
I'm just going to apologize in advance that you don't branch out on your foods. And
It's okay. Mom's not here to defend it.
you don't like spicy.
No.
You don't like
No.
most
No,
seafood.
if I was
don't
open a
get it.
restaurant, it'd be called plain food. Hot dogs, mac and cheese,
Yes.
plain food.
You're getting TV dinners and opening a business. I mean, that's probably what you're going to do.
All right, let's move on. All right.
Just bland, man.
Anything you want to say about spiders?
Well, I mean, other than
whatever,
the
that
fact
one?
that, you don't like them,
Okay.
I mean, obviously, you're seeing exposure. And I think that's the thing that's so amazing about it is, not only with the thumb drive, God is driving, exposure into the people that are trying to be doing things in secrecy or privacy.
true.
And, again, you're seeing the demonic now being exposed. And I think that's the thing that, is where we got to rejoice and understand that, listen, for so long, they've been trying all of these different things. And you said the word, I think, collaboration. Is that what you said? Or the web, but it was like a collaboration is what I think of. And to be honest with you, the devil thought with this web that it could continue to web across or collaborate and more could join in now in what they were trying to do and what the agenda was. But God's agenda is ultimately what's going to win. And I think that's what you're seeing is the exposure now of these terrible things. So,
And I think God's going to reveal, if he's calling something out, he's going to expose who it is and what they're doing. And so let's just keep praying in it, which I look at Janet and Deb and different ones from our prayer team and those of you that pray. Let's just keep praying. Remember, God said, I don't know how many days until the inauguration. Let's just keep praying this thing through. I do want to go back to August 16th, 2023. It'd be slide 43 back there for those in the booth. Just about the feathers again. And then I want to shift gears. I want to bring this to a close so that we have time to pray for you. I just think it's worth repeating. I ran into, I don't want to give too much detail, but a Christian person. And they thought that all these indictments were true. And they were a Christian And that, and I said, well, you're listening to the news. Well, it's true. You can't make all this stuff up. And so I finally showed them all the prophecies. I said, look, just look at these. This is what God is saying, okay? And they said, well, I don't believe that. I said, well, you're a Christian. Well, I don't believe that, Hank. I said, okay, well, then let's just see how it plays out. And over the last year, they would squirm and sweat. Try to do that. But look at slide 44. Maybe you've seen the new special counsel, Jack Smith. Remember, hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no more. Trump federal case officially ends. Okay, all appeals drop. Come on, these are the feathers. Okay, once again. Look at slide 45. This is kind of interesting about 45. It's slide 45. God said, June 11th, 2023. Listen carefully. There's a pride that was upon Pharaoh. Okay, and God says, this has been the spirit of those who think through the indictments of innocence. So God's telling you, you're believing the media. They're lying to you. But I'm telling you as God who knows all things, this man's innocent. And they said through indictments of innocence, indictments done to create the narrative that there are things that have gone wrong and have been done that are wrong. I speak of 45, says the Lord. God says, I'm going to let this happen, but it's a trap. And then he goes on, says it's a trap, and many traps set by the power of my hand, even to the point they'll push for a mug shot. This is before the mug shot. They weren't even talking about a mug shot. And it happened. God was telling us ahead of time. But he says they're even going to push for a bracelet, which they talked about. I've set a trap, and it'll backfire and cause the spirits that have tried to attack this nation, because he's talking about how people are listening to devils, who try to attack this nation, to take it over. Socialism is not the future of the generation of the children that shall arise. Watch the traps that shall be swallowed up by their own actions. Last one, slide 47. Therefore, pay attention. That which they say is guilty, do not make me laugh, nor the people of the earth that the Spirit of truth touches, that will say, enough of this foolishness, and the plan and the fires of indictment against 45 shall what? So he told you this August of 2023. And God says, I'll show my hand of justice, and it'll begin to burn brightly upon those who've pushed an agenda that they thought that they could lock up, stop my hand and my flame that shall burn like a fire throughout. And I've said to you, I'll restore the years, the locust, the cankerworm, the fires that have burned among you, I'll restore. 24 shall be the moving of my hand of restoration. How many have seen it? 2024, we're almost out of it. And now we're moving into that season of, hey, grace. All right, let's end with this, slide 48. Fanny's got her Fanny in trouble. Fanny, I know she prefers Fanny or whatever it is. But what you did was not funny, so, there you go. She has to release Trump investigation records. Judge is forcing her to testify to Republicans over Trump persecution. Okay, we want the best for her soul, but what you brought the American people through wasn't kind to them, and it wasn't justice. It wasn't what you're positioned in power for. We were going to talk about Syria. Do you want to see that Syria prophecy from last night, what God said? Okay, and then we'll pray. Okay. Let me see if I can find it real quick in a flash moment.